Welcome to the Solo Grind, where we shine a light on the raw and real journey of being a solo entrepreneur. I am Teresa, your guide on this adventure of going it alone, without a safety net and without the rule book. The grind is real, my friend, and so are the wins, the freedom, and the joy of building success on your own terms. I'm here to debunk the myths, share some laughs, and share what it takes to thrive as a go-getter, busy, doing it all entrepreneur. Hello and welcome back to the Solo Grind, my friends. I am so excited to have you here today because we have one of my favorite people joining us today. But more about that in just a few moments. If we are meeting for the very first time, I am so happy to meet you. I am Teresa Schloop, the original caffeine creative, and I help solo entrepreneurs create standout brands through web design, personal branding, and digital marketing. You can find me at caffeinecreative.io. And honestly, all of my best contact information is in the show notes below. Now, before we dive into today's episode, I thought I would do a quick little recap of the month. We have been talking about marketing and honestly, more specifically, relationship marketing, including in episode 1 for this month, if you've been following along, personal branding and why you are your best marketing strategy. When we show up as our authentic, real, true self and build a brand upon that, we naturally attract the right clients that we are looking for and dreaming about. Next, the following week, we talked about the power of relationship marketing and honestly went a little bit more intimate into the concept of relationship marketing. This is a concept that comes up and disappears and comes up and disappears. And honestly, it is the only way that I have ever truly worked to build a true business. Because when we build genuine relationships, that is the key to long-term success and how we cultivate those connections that fuel our brand, fuel our success, and keep our business sustaining for years to come. I have clients that have been with me for years, and honestly, usually when they leave, it's because they've decided to close their business or go in a new direction, and I'm not the best fit. But we still are friends and we still have a relationship because we fostered that. And that is the power of relationship marketing. Then last week we talked about beyond the sale. How do we keep clients engaged after they buy? How do we put things into place to keep one-time buyers into becoming repeat customers and our best referral sources? So that is what we've been talking about. And all of that leads us to today's episode, where we're going to be talking about those systems and processes that we need to put into place to create more time and more profit. And yes, we are going to have Nancy Quinn joining us here in just a moment, formerly Nancy Ganzekaufer. Nancy is one of the top business coaches in the interior design industry. And I'm going to go ahead and bring her in before I fully introduce her. So let's do that. Well, let me bring Nancy in. Hey, Nancy, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Teresa. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I was just about to read your intro and I thought I should bring her on screen so people can have a face to that. So we'll go ahead and dive right in. But anyway, so Nancy Quinn, as you guys, I just said, Nancy Ganzekaufer is how she has been here with us before. But Nancy was recently married to a fabulous man and now is
Yes,
Nancy
I
Quinn. And you are married. Yep, he's fabulous. And you are one of the top business coaches in the interior design industry, but you also work with other creatives like myself to create solid businesses built on confidence and profitability and all of those things. And you've got this no fluff, straightforward coaching style, which I love personally, helping us break out of our comfort zones and tap into full potential through one-on-one coaching, your signature group coaching program, the Profit Insiders Academy, and through your proven strategies in sales, marketing, pricing, mindset, and more. Designers are empowered to grow profitable, sustainable, successful businesses. And today we're going to be talking about systems and processes, which is kind of a perfect cap off to the month because we've been talking about building relationships and bringing in clients and making everybody, getting a business going. But now you've got the clients. How do you make it easy, profitable, and not overwhelming and
Well,
stressful?
as you're talking, I'm thinking, wow, that is a mouthful, right? Everything that we do, everything that the listeners do who run their own businesses. And for some reason, what came to mind as you're talking is, boy, it's not easy to run a business, is it?
Oh my gosh, it is so not easy. It is not for the weak minded, it is not for the
No.
lazy. Um, it's a
It's
lot
a
of
lot of work.
work.
And the
And
difference between, and I'm curious of your opinion of this, the difference between selling a product versus selling a service, right? Because I specialize in coaching interior designers, but like you said in the intro, I coach any service provider, right? So it's kind of like a intangible sometimes, and it's a different type of sale, and it's a different type of process you have in place for communicating with your
Mhm.
clients. Sometimes different from a product.
I think it's very different from a product because with a product, there's that intangible result that they're going to get. Here is my new shiny object, and I'm so excited. My life is going to be better. And it's an instant gratification when they got
Yes,
that. But with a service, sometimes the results are not instantaneous. Often for me, like they're not
they're not.
instantaneous. They take time and it takes a development and building in the processes, building in the right design for me, whatever the case is. It's a process. And so services, I think, is very, very different than
Yeah, I mean,
selling
I
products.
just got this shirt today from the TikTok shop, right? And I thought, okay, like it, not great quality, probably won't buy it again. Done. They'll never hear from me again. They don't have to have this ongoing conversation with
Right.
me the way a service provider does. I mean, should they? Yes, but usually they don't, right? So
Right.
what happens in a service based business is we often start out providing very niche, like one-on-one services, and really getting to know our businesses and what we're providing to people and what they need, and we're charging for that. And then you realize it's not enough money to work just one-on-one with people, right? I need to provide more. And then you start building this business that has to sustain what you need monthly to pay your bills and
Mhm.
not take so much of your time, because what happens then is you end up getting overwhelmed, working too much, your work life balance goes off, right? And suddenly
Mhm.
you don't want to work anymore, you're overwhelmed, you just want to stay in bed. You don't even enjoy your business anymore.
No, and you forget why you were excited to
Yes,
begin with. And that's what happened to me. Like I was like, why did I want to do this? What was I
yes.
thinking? Why is this so good? Because I'm not getting the benefits that I thought
Right,
I
which is
would.
why then you have to get organized, right? And as you develop your business, having more systems and processes that take you a little bit out of the business so that you can go on and do other things as you grow, right? So it's actually a hard thing to teach someone who's a control freak, right? So I was totally a control freak, and I was a one woman show, and
Yeah.
then I was a two woman show, and then a three, and then I changed careers, and now I've got a staff. And to let go and hand it to someone else and to know they're going to do it right. And as we get older, to remember how to do it right ourselves, we actually have to have systems and processes in our business. And I'll tell you, I remember when my business manager first came on, she was like, okay, we need Asana to track tasks. We need Slack to communicate. These are all systems and processes that we use in my current business. And I thought, no, we don't. We have email. We have text. Why do we need these things? And then why SOPs, standard operating procedures, in more detail than I already had? I don't get it. But I trusted who I hired. And I said, you know
Mhm.
what? Show me. And she said, it's going to be a lot of upfront work. And then it's going to make everything run smoother, bounce from person to person, staff member to staff
Mhm.
member
Mhm.
at the right timing. And as they started to develop, Teresa, as you know, I was like, oh my God, this really works. And yeah, all these systems really work well together.
It really does. And even for me as a solo entrepreneur, 95% of my business is me, but that other 5%, I am trusting to other contractors that I
Yes.
bring in, other consultants that I bring in, and I need to trust that they're going to be able to do things. And I was that control freak as well and really had to release things. But
Yes.
even just the automated processes that you can build into your systems, that you have to know that you have to trust that it got set up appropriately. You have to
Yes.
test it. I'm a big proponent of testing. People
Right.
don't test enough. But then you have to trust that it's
Yes.
working. And you've got to stop being so hyper focused on minute, tiny little details that are driving you crazy more than they're
Exactly.
helping you.
And here's the thing, there's the technology systems and processes they have to put in place, but there's also your marketing program, your sales process, your conversational flow, your follow up series,
Mhm.
where, for interior designers, it's something like the client's going to come through their website or find a way to message them. Now they have to get on the phone with them. After they get on the phone with them, go try to get them into a paid consult. After the paid consult, offer them something, right? There's a process and a system. What happens
Yes.
is before a designer or any service provider understands what their client flow is, I guess, right? The journey of the
Mhm.
client. That's what I was trying to remember. The client journey, if you don't have that clear, what happens is every time somebody calls, you're making a decision at that point. Should I do a paid consult with this person or should I just stay on the phone for an hour and kind of flush out as much as I can and see if they're going to be good, right? Or they said something that I'm not sure might be a red flag. So should I bypass the paid consult and go right there? It creates this constant decision making, and that you end up with
Yes.
decision fatigue where I'm telling you that's your process. You go from phone call to in-home consult, and this like
Mhm.
don't sway from it, because the minute you do, you're going to mess up your system. The client's going to start pushing your boundaries, and next thing you know, you're going to have not a smooth client journey.
And you're going to be questioning, did I do this? Did I do this right? What did I do? Like, it is a mess. And I have had people come to me in the past. They're like, well, we're going to do things this way. And I say, well, then I'm not the fit for you.
Exactly. I have a similar
Flat out,
story.
because I'm very clear that this is how I show up as my very best self, and I cannot compromise
Yes,
on that. So this is how we do things. If that's not a good fit for you, that's okay. I have other web designers that I can recommend.
exactly.
And that's the
That's
end.
it.
Oh,
I had a designer once who wanted to work with me in person. And I said, I don't do in person any longer. Well, but we live so close to each other. I said, I understand that, but I am very much into managing my time really well, which I know we're going to talk about in a little
yes.
while as well. And if I need to have you ring my doorbell or meet you somewhere, I have to get in my car, get dressed, look a certain way, right up from not just from the top up, right?
Right.
And the time to get there. And then, of course, the courtesies and a little bit of conversation before and after. That's not my business model. I work through Zoom. And if you don't want to work with a business coach virtually, I get it. That's okay. But that is my business
Sure.
model for me to have the best life I'm trying to lead, right? So you may not be the best client for me.
And that's
Yes,
okay. That is okay. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that we need to get with is that you cannot compromise your systems and your processes just for the sale.
correct.
You will regret it.
Absolutely. And I do work with designers who often will be calling me on the business helpline that we have, saying, like, I don't know what to do. I'm competing against other designers, and the other designers are doing it this way. Okay, but this is what you need for your business, for your process. This is your price. And we've worked it out that it's the appropriate price for your company.
Sure.
If you change that, now you're going to work for free or less, right? Or just not make the
Or
money you
less.
should have been making on this job. If you don't get that job, it's okay, because they may not have liked your systems and processes. We don't change for
Right.
every complaining client.
Oh, no, never. And honestly, people will either they'll accept you or they
Yes.
won't. If they don't, that's okay. It's not a good fit. There's more than enough for all of us. There's a piece of pie for everybody at the table. And I always firmly
Yes.
believe that. And it opens up space for the next person who is going to be the
Exactly.
right fit, who you are going to enjoy, because you won't even have the capacity to attract that person if you're struggling to try and keep up with somebody who just wasn't the right fit because they didn't like the way you
Exactly.
did things.
And yeah, it's never the ideal
Yeah.
client. It's never the
Mhm.
the good mix if there's tension right from the beginning.
It just, you're
Right.
absolutely
I
right.
notice that. Like sometimes you'll go, okay, someone wants to work with me, I'll work with them. But there's a little something inside of you going, I don't know if we have the right communication style or, something. And to me, that is where service providers, when it comes to marketing, they're hiring you. They're hiring your personality. They're hiring your communication style, whether you are the person that
Mhm.
can help them. And then your systems and processes support that sale, that reputation that you're now trying to keep up because past clients are your best source of new clients.
Thank you. That's what we've been talking about all month long,
Oh, I didn't even
honestly,
listen. See
is
that?
that relationship. Yeah, it's that relationship marketing piece, showing up as your authentic self, being the very best version of yourself, which means showing up in the best possible way for you, what works for you. That's your systems and processes. And then you have these referrals. I had a client just the other day, we were meeting. She's brought somebody else in to help with her team and help with some of her marketing. And we were talking, and she said, I've been with Teresa for 5 years because she's always been clear. I know what to expect. I know what's coming. I know how things are going to work. And she tells me what's going on
Yes,
right up front. And that is part of it. That's one of the things that you do is you help designers increase their profitability by setting up those systems and reclaiming their personal time.
absolutely.
Give us some examples of how we can do that as
Reclaiming your
entrepreneurs.
time, setting up processes, and hiring sometimes is also part of setting up a successful process in your business. So, how can you do and get your life back for all of you who are overworking, which I did for years? I get it. I grew my business that way, but it's not the only way to grow. Sometimes there's
I
you.
watched you overwork
I
for a
know. I mean,
while,
I
and
literally
it's
worked 70 hours a week. No exaggeration. You know that.
no,
Was I always on?
constantly, always, always
Always on,
on.
right? And it did. Like, listen,
Mhm.
putting in that amount of hours did help me build my business, but it was grinding it out, not the proper way. And I've learned so much since that now I'm teaching people how to not grind it out the way I ground it out. Make smart decisions
Yeah.
all along the way. I was doing it a little too frenetically without guidance of a coach, without knowing like what decisions to make and when. And sometimes I was just too
Mhm.
stubborn to listen to anybody, also, right? You know that. Sometimes
It's okay. You know what you
right? Because
know,
my
right?
business, I'll do it the way. But now I've learned that if you set things up and get the right people in place from the beginning, boy, is it going to make a huge difference. Have the right guide from the beginning. Make the proper first hire or assistant, whether it's virtual or in person, right?
Mhm.
Build your
Yeah.
processes with that person if you can, or by yourself if you have to. And that's fine too, because you need to be able to look at your processing over the year and go, like you're mostly solopreneur, but you're looking at your processes every year and going,
Mhm.
did this work? How was this?
Absolutely. I not only do I look and say, "Hey, did this work?" A good example, I do audits for a lot
Yes,
of your clients, and I'm reviewing that process. We just finished our last round of audits. As I was going through, I was like, there's some things that I want to tweak and adjust. And so next time it's going to be tweaked and adjusted a
beautiful.
little bit to be a better fit. But it's constantly reviewing that, and so I'm always doing that. But also the people that I consult with, that I bring in, I have a copywriter that I work with. We have a recap and say, hey, what worked? What didn't? Can we do things
Yes.
differently? How can I support you better? Those kind of conversations. It's
It
very
is very
powerful.
powerful. And so, how can they do it? Okay, one, if you already have staff, ask your staff, what can get better and how can it get better? Boy, if you're willing to hear what they say, they'll tell you exactly what's going wrong if something's going wrong from
So
their
true.
perspective. And then, of course, you have to put your ego down and
Yeah.
figure out is that accurate or not, right? Certainly, if
Mhm.
you don't have anybody on your team and you're overwhelmed, that is one way to start getting rid of some of the overwhelm. Um, in addition to, sometimes I'll recommend doing a power 2 days where you have no clients on your calendar. Literally, I don't care if you say you're sick, just stop going out of your house and do 2 hours and 45-minute chunks if possible and get some of these big process or big tasks done. Like, what do
Mhm.
I have a welcome packet? Do I have an email series? Do I have a
Yes.
follow-up series that is set up? Do I need to have a email system, but I'm overwhelmed trying to figure out how to implement it, right? You have to have maybe
Mhm.
2 hours one morning to get on with you or someone else to say, how do I get this system up and running? And then once it's up and
Mhm.
running, oh my God, it's a time.
The time that you save is
Okay, so
incredible. Just my booking software alone saves
yes,
me, I can't tell you how many hours. I honestly can't. I just know that it saves me. And I used to do those, I call them VIP days. Once a month, I had
so
a
smart.
VIP day where I shut down everything. I shut off my phone. If I had to, I would go out of town, like whatever the case was. And I had this VIP day. So I would create those big chunks, create the welcome packet, create my welcome series, because it's more of a series now, all of these pieces that made my business run, and then set up the automations or bring in the right people to set up the automations to get it in place. And I tell you what, now I don't have to do monthly VIP days. Honestly, I have monthly do whatever I want
Exactly.
days.
Right, because you're not
You know,
manually trying to remember, I got to send this email on this date, and then I want like those nurturing emails. So, an automated calendar from your website to set your appointments and have it set up properly when you want to take phone calls, not, so you're not getting phone calls randomly. Blocking your
right.
time to return all the phone calls in a certain way, right? Um,
Yeah.
we just came out with a new training. It's complimentary, it's free, it's called Design Your Time. I think we're going to be providing a link, right?
Absolutely. It's a fabulous
Yeah.
training, and everyone should be
Thank
doing
you. We
this
already
training.
have
Yeah.
about 200 downloads and we just came out with it, which is
Great.
incredible. But it's cool because we gave you a link to take a free personality test, the Myers Briggs. So
Mhm.
you'll get your personality type, and then we created the training based on your personality type. But I always tell everyone, watch all of it because there is a lot of overlap. And sometimes the way I say something one time and the way I say it the next time will register differently. But I'm very much a
Absolutely.
loose block person. Like, I need to know the hours that I'm working and then the hours that I have appointments. I don't need to micro block. Other types of personalities need to micro block in order to get things done. Do you know what? Did you do my training, or do you
Mhm.
know what you like?
I did parts of the training. I didn't do it at all because I'm honestly, I love my
Then you
timing
don't
and
need
everything in
it.
place. So I don't really need it, but I still wanted to get an experience a little bit because I wanted to be able to recommend it, from a place of
Right, right.
perspective. But I am with you. I'm a little bit more loose. Like, I am great at time blocking, but I'm a little bit more loose. And I may have a checklist. Like, in the morning, I'm like, here are my
Me
priorities
too.
for the day. And it's usually not a huge list. And then I go through and I check off my priorities. Sometimes I'll add a bonus task or two. But I will say this, at the end of the day, when that last box is checked, it doesn't matter what time of the day it is. I'm
It's a
done.
beautiful thing.
I don't push through and be like, okay, well, I have 2 more hours left in my workday. So what can I do next? I'm like, no, I'm going to go play with my kittens or my
Yes.
dogs or hop on my treadmill or drink a bourbon. I don't know. I'm going to do
Right,
whatever I want in
right.
this moment because I work efficiently and I
And
stay
that's
on
what a
task.
system or a process and a good staff member or a virtual assistant will do for you, give you your time back. And,
Absolutely.
listen, to get your overwhelm out of the way, sometimes you're adjusting your prices too. You're going up in prices so that you have less
Mhm.
clients, more money. That's what we teach in the Profit Insider Academy. Less clients, more money, charge appropriately for the job that you're doing, exemplary service all the time, and then systems and processes to make it easier for you through the whole design process. I mean, we're teaching now, shush, but we're teaching how to record, summarize, and when I tell you, it's saving so much time. And the next thing we're releasing soon is, I have the key pricing tool. Okay, one of our most
Yes. Oh,
successful
God.
products for the interior designers.
I hear so much raving stuff
It's
about the key. It is like game changer for
game
interior
changer.
designers.
People are getting their price they should be getting for their services. But here's what I've been doing, and it's almost done. It's in beta right now. Is I programmed a GPT key. So they will get my
Oh.
spreadsheet to be able to price out their jobs appropriately so that you can create the systems and processes. Like, sometimes, Teresa, it's the cart before the horse. Like, everyone's trying to do the best website they can have with a calendar built in to do their appointments and have an email system that then does all their emails. But guess what, guys? That takes time or money and knowledge.
Mhm. Honestly, it takes both. I want to let people know there's a balance. Sometimes it's more time than money because you have more time to give them
Yes.
money, but you're going to have to invest both to really set things up
Yes.
right. But when you do, you're not working 70-hour weeks
Yes.
anymore.
You're working 20.
You're working 20. I think on average I work about
I'm 20
25.
and the income has remained. So here's the thing. That's what happens when you grow your business finally properly. It took me long enough to get there.
Mhm.
But also it gives you the flexibility that you can work more hours if you want. You can use your time.
Absolutely.
Like one of my profit insiders who has coached with many coaches. She about 3 months into my 1 year program, which is now switching to a 6 month program, my Profit Insider Academy. She called me on the business helpline and said, "Okay, like I don't feel stressed coaching with you. I feel like other coaches have given me more to do, and I'm always trying to complete their assignments to get me, da da da." Now, we had already gone through her repricing, her processes. We had gone in 3 months into my program. You're pretty much on your way, and the rest of the 9 months is learning again, just to fine tune things. And as questions and
Yeah,
different things come up, we figure them out. So
sure.
she said, "I'm just not stressed enough." So I go back to her and I go, "How's the income been lately?" She tells me, "It's double what it was when she came into my program." I'm like, "And how's your pipeline?" "Pipeline's full." "Yeah, I'm kind of bored," she says, like, because now she has set up her systems and process. She's confirmed with me. She's raised
Yes.
her prices, more money, needs less clients. She's not uptight like, "Oh my God, I need to get my next person," because her marketing has been set up and she's working it well. So I said to her, "So do you want to grow your business bigger? Or do you want
Mhm.
to use your free time to spend some time with your retired husband?" And she said, "Good question." I said, "Now you get to decide the direction of your free time."
Now you get to decide. And that's exactly it. Because I have my systems and process in place, because I work on average about 25 hours a week, I have a podcast now.
Because you
Because
wanted
I'm
to.
doing this for
Exactly.
fun. Because I wanted to do it. It's something that I wanted to do for years, but time wasn't on
Right.
my side. So I just put a pin in it and
You have
now
the time to
I
do
love
it
it. I
and you
have
have the
the time
money
to
to
do
do
it.
it.
I have the money to do it and I love what I'm doing. And it's one of my joys to show up and do this podcast each week. So I couldn't have done that had I not gotten myself organized, had my systems in place, had my processes in place. And even now with the process in place, like I mentioned before, I do review them all the time, like periodically throughout the years. But that review cycle, I guarantee I'm going to have that little, our audit process as example again, that will be fine tuned in about an hour or two.
Yes, I mean, it's so much easier once you have it fine tuned down to a science, right? So when I first tell interior designers, I want you emailing your clients every week or every other week, the most, um, or the least, I should say, to give them a status of how many hours are left in their project management, what you've done the last week or two, and what's coming up. They're like, "What? Like, that's ridiculous." I'm like, "No, we're talking high level overview. Your client's going to hear from you every Monday or every Friday just to
Sure.
say, 'Hey, this is what we got done this week.'" And again, you're going, "We sourced for your living room. We, did started your floor plans." You're doing high level things. Actually, I should change what I just said because that would make it in the design phase. And I teach you don't have to be accountable to every step in the design phase for the client. Now switch to the project
Sure.
management. We have started ordering your furniture. We are starting to track. Everything's on target. This is how many hours are left in your bank of hours, right? What does that do?
Mhm.
It stops the texts, the phone calls, the panicked, like, "I haven't heard from you in 3 weeks. What's going on?" Right? So let me just restate
Mhm.
that. I teach flat design fee, variable project management fee. In the design phase, you can still send your client every other week during those periods where they may not hear from you when you're in your creative time. Let
Mhm.
them know you're still working. In your project management, where you actually are working hourly, which is what I teach, then you are giving them a little bit more of what you've done and what's left to do. Okay, now
Mhm.
turn that into a template. 3 sections of every email. You always say similar things. You've got 5 things in
Mhm.
each category that are your choices. That's what we're talking about, Teresa and I. Like a repeatable
Mhm.
process that you don't have to start from scratch. Have a contract for full service design, designer for a day, designer on call, renovations and new builds. Have a contract that you don't have to change
Mhm.
constantly. You're only changing the front page
Right?
with the name and the back page with the scope. These are
Mhm.
repeatable processes rather than starting a new contract every time, which some people still do.
Right, and even with my proposals, I can send a proposal in a matter of minutes. There are features that I need to update and change because each project is custom quoted. Like, I don't have a cookie cutter
Right,
package. You don't just, "Here, I'm gonna give you 5 web pages." That's
right.
not what I do. Like, I say, "What do we need? Let's talk about what your needs are," and then I build the package
Beautiful.
around that. But even so, the proposal is set up because so many pieces are not changeable. This is how I'm gonna show up
Yes,
for you. This is what we're gonna do. Here's our timeline. Those pieces are pretty standard. So I can send a proposal in minutes
exactly.
because I've got that process in place and I just need to go in and make the minor changes that customize it to the person that I'm
Yes. So,
communicating with.
everyone who's listening, imagine if you wrote 3 processes that you want to write out as a starting point and then actually
Yeah.
implement and get it on your calendar as to what are the steps each week to get closer to getting it implemented, or do a power session if it's one of those types of things. Like, you've got to take the time to do it, right? So download my Design Your Time free quiz and training. Figure out what is the best time management for you, and then really
Mhm.
dig into your systems and processes so that you can get some time savings. Like, I can look at certain things and go, wow, if I could automate that, that would really save me a lot of time, right?
Mhm. Or even just like you said, having the template in place. Even if you're not ready to automate, because automation is scary and is
Yes.
vulnerable, have a template in place. For decades, I'm not even kidding. In my email, I've always had a email folder that is quick responses. Quick responses because there are certain questions that I answer time and time and time and time again. So for decades, this is something that I have utilized where I can go in, pull the response, update, send the email. So you can still create a process if you're not ready to automate that is going to simplify things. It'll take me a minute to send this email versus let me retype the same thing that I typed 100 million times where it takes you
Yes.
10 minutes.
And
So
honestly, with
there's
AI
all kinds
now,
of ways.
apparently, I was at the bank the other day and the woman told me, "Oh yeah, my AI on my phone answers all my emails." I said, "What?" Like, and I am teaching AI in the Profit Insiders Academy on what's
Yeah.
helping them, but that was another level up. I'm like, okay, I'm not sure I like that. I want to be like,
I I'm not
yeah,
ready to
I
let
don't think
go
I
of that
like that at
control.
all, and I think
I
that
have
is not a good
yeah,
idea.
I have seen that too and I'm like,
I don't
"No."
like it.
I still think I am the center of my business and I am because this is how I've
Yeah,
built my business is by being me, showing up and being
right.
me, and that's what people want. So I don't want to replace
Of
myself
course
completely.
not. And I think that's
But
a really bad idea as a business. I think means she was doing it personally. She was just a banker. Hopefully, she wasn't answering bank emails from her phone. But
probably.
it's crazy, and I think you've hit on something that everyone should, as a service provider, try not to get too wrapped up in automated answers, but have things that you've developed, right? So in our academy, we
Yes.
give templates. We give don't say that, say this. We give the wording and communication
Sure.
tips all over the
Sure.
place. And then you have to develop it for yourself, right? I think you've heard me
Mhm.
talk about my desire sales formula. The
I use your
oh,
desire sales formula. I have used that since we met, however, 6, 7 years ago. I have used that
yeah, and I
formula.
just taught it
Mhm.
yesterday live in the Design Files Facebook group.
Sure.
But it's like, again, what is that, Teresa? It's a system.
It's a system and it has never
And it
failed.
doesn't fail if you do it right, right? But I'll tell people I can do it in my voice, but then I want you to go and practice it in your voice. You may change a word or two, just don't change the
Mhm.
steps, because the steps are the process of the psychological sales process,
Right.
right? But that is a
Yeah.
system, that is a process. And then
Mhm.
the objections, how do you handle them over and over again? How would you handle this objection?
Mhm.
Handle it the same as you've handled it successfully in the past. If you haven't handled it successfully, learn how to handle it and rinse and repeat what works.
Rinse and repeat. I remember practicing the desire sales formula in the mirror. I remember practicing it in the mirror because I'm a big proponent when you're trying to formulate how you want to respond to people, you do it in a mirror because you're talking to somebody. Even though it's your face that you're
Yeah.
looking back at, having someone looking back at you changes the dynamics. And I remember practicing that
That's
in the mirror.
amazing. I'll go and do it in my groups. I'll role play and I'll say, be the
Oh, sure.
worst client you've ever had who's called you and tried to get your pricing, estimates, everything over the phone. Test me. And
Mhm.
I stick to the script, and it takes 10 minutes. And what I also teach, though, is you can do that script perfectly and there'll still be people who just don't go forward, and that's okay.
Oh yeah, there's still people who don't say yes. I'm not by any means
Right.
100%. And I don't want to be 100%. It's okay. The people that have not said yes, it just wasn't the right time for them. So then it would have created stress if they'd have moved
Exactly.
forward. I've had them come back later on. Maybe I wasn't the right fit. Robin, who is somebody you know very well, she's a good friend of mine. Sometimes we bid for the same
Yes.
projects. And sometimes they go with Robin and sometimes they go with me. And her and I have talked about that over coffee. It is always
Yes,
perfect.
because they're picking you based on
Who
your
they select
personality
is,
and the
yes,
system you say you adhere to once they become a client, right? So for an interior
exactly.
designer, that's
And
a
her
welcome
system,
packet and a visit to explain your process. You
yeah.
don't have to explain it in their cases all over the phone.
And while our results both come up with really fabulous websites at the
Yes.
end, her process is a little bit different than mine. Her timeline is a little bit different
Yes.
than mine. And that's why it works. And we've always been pleased
Yeah,
with
and
how
you're
it
both
goes.
my
So,
sponsors. I tell my profit insiders,
mhm,
meet with both of them, pick who you feel
sure.
is a best fit for you. Period. I never say
Absolutely.
go this way or go that way, because they
Right.
really do. It's like, picking a coach, right? I want people who
Mhm.
can relate to my communication style, can handle my no nonsense style,
Your
my
no
no
fluff
fluff
approach.
style, because very sensitive individuals, often. But one of my clients said to me, what I like about you is that you let us go off a little bit and you're empathetic, and then you shut it down and tell us how we should proceed. And I'm like, yeah, I guess that's a good description of me. We all need to kind of get a little bit out, but then it's time to stop complaining, move on, and
Yes.
plan for your futures, plan your business vision for 3 years from now. What do you
Mhm.
need to do in your business? What do you want to do? And then how are you going to get
Yeah.
there?
And I would say, as having coached with you too, I appreciate that you listen. You don't just keep repeating, no, here's my cookie cutter solution. You must follow this to the letter, like so many
Yeah.
business coaches do. You actually listen. And there have been times when you've like, oh, I don't understand this at all, you know? But when I come back and I say with confidence why I want to do what I want to do, you're like, let's see what happens. And you never like make me feel guilty that I am breaking your system, you
No.
know? And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. But in the end, I learned a lesson or you saw that it did work and I knew what I was doing. So it
No,
doesn't really
it doesn't.
matter.
And
Yeah.
everyone's business is different. Everybody's location is different. And as you know, I coach all over the
Mhm.
world in English speaking interior designers and service providers.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I can take somebody's idea and go, does that match their personality? And does that match what I think their ideal client is going to like? And is the price right? And
Yeah.
does it seem sustainable? Like all these things go through my head instantaneously. And I go, yeah, that's not going to work. Or I don't think that's going to work. But
You are very good at discerning that stuff and poking holes into plans. You have poked so many holes into my plans. I love it.
and again, sometimes I'm not always right. Like I had a client yesterday.
Yeah.
I had been watching her over the last 3 months do something that I don't think I recommended, but my memory's not perfect. So I'm thinking, And it's kind of not worked out for her. And I know she has done some other coaching with, very specific coaching outside of me, which I always tell people, please don't do that because then it gets you confused. So I messaged her
It
on the
does.
business helpline the other day. I'm like, can I ask you something? When did you decide to do this and go down that route? And I said, and did I talk to you about, like, did you talk to me about this? And she came back with, no, it wasn't you. And I don't know why I did it. I hired someone else to do something else. And then they kind of gave me a little coaching advice, even though they're not a coach. And I went with it thinking it sounded like a really good idea. And I never talked about it with you. And it didn't work at all. And it's actually causing her some, emotional pain that she had made this decision. And I'm like, okay, it's okay. Now we just need to
It's
turn
okay.
it around. Let's go back to
Now you
basics
know.
again. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stop. We
Yeah.
all like to
Yeah.
chase shiny marketing objects once in a while and think it's going to make our business, go to the moon and back. I'm guilty of it as well. And the bottom line is there's no getting away from setting up a process, a procedure, your pricing, your marketing, and being the CEO of your business and getting it planned out, slow and steady, increasing to whatever level you become happy for your life.
Um, so I would add one more piece to that and say that we've just said the secret to building a successful business, and that is building those relationships
Yes.
and those processes in place. Build
Yes.
relationships. Hands down, they show that you are competent, confident, professional, and that builds
Yes.
relationships. It builds that like, know, and trust factor that we talk so much about in our
Website
website
Wednesday. Oh, and I
Wednesdays.
want to, while you're talking again, things pop into my head. So some people say, do I have to do my social media? Like I've never really gotten anyone through that. Okay, so here's it. If you can't set up just a steady, simple social media plan
Mhm.
so that if someone does look you up, they see consistency and something
Mhm.
they like, rather than seeing, oh, they haven't posted in 6 months. Are they really still in business? If they can't even have a system to keep up on their Instagram, I'll just make it simple.
Yeah.
How are they going to have a system that keeps up on my job?
And that's just it. Because I will say, if I go to look at some of my social media and it's not been touched in 6 months, I question if they've still
Absolutely.
been
I
in
do too.
business.
I do too.
Absolutely. And that's not to say, because I also see the extreme where I've had people tell me that they've spent 40 hours trying to do their social media for the week. And that is, you're overthinking it way
Absolutely.
too much. It's a small portion of your time. You should be able to quickly do it, implement it, get it out there.
And
And
depends on what your goals are too for your social media, right? So this all plays in. But if you're going
yeah.
to be looked at as a professional,
Hmm.
from the outside looking in, someone who might want to hire you, you want to make sure your public facing assets, your website and your social media and anything else that might be public
Yep.
facing, blogs and things like that, are your brand and are well maintained, steadily maintained. So that if someone's looking at you,
Hmm.
they go, wow, they run a really good business. Their website's up to date. Their blogs are once a month. They put out once a week on social media consistently, and it's always nice, simple, but consistent.
It's simple. Yeah.
Oh, wow. We talked about a lot today.
Okay. We did talk about a lot. It is always so great
Thank
having
you.
you here. So let's go ahead and wrap things up. Tell people where they can find you, because you're normally asking me that, but I get to ask you that
Okay,
today.
so the Facebook group for interior designers is the Interior Design Business Forum. We have almost 10,000 interior designers and interior design professionals in there. So you can come in there and we do lives with Teresa and other of my sponsors. Then you can also find me. My website is still nancyganzekaufer.com, but we are going through a rebranding soon, and it'll be Profit Insiders Coaching, which is my signature program, the Profit Insider Academy. And what I'm really excited about is it's been a year program for a while, but I feel like there's a change in the world right now, and people are looking for a little bit faster results and faster knowledge. So I'm doing it as an accelerated program this time. Okay. So it's
Okay.
going to be six
Exciting.
months, but it's going to be 6 weeks, one, in a row, and then touching base, regularly one-on-ones, group program, all in there is coming out soon. And I think I'm so excited for this program because people are going to get results fast and even faster. And
Mhm.
we're already getting amazing results in that program.
Oh, incredible
Yeah, you
results.
meet with
Absolutely.
everybody
Yes.
on that comes through me.
I know. I get a
Yeah,
chance to meet with
yeah.
everybody. So yeah, it's incredible what you help them
Thank
accomplish, and to see the success stories and to have watched those success stories over the years. It's
It
just been
definitely warms
remarkable.
my
So
heart and why I do what I do.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. So we will make sure we have all your contact information in the show notes, the Facebook group, the training that you offered, your website, those kind of things. Anything else you guys think are necessary, we'll make sure to
Perfect.
include that. And thanks again so much for
We
joining us
always
here
have great
today. I
conversations,
always love
Teresa. We
having you.
always have. You were on my weekend wind down years ago when I
I
first
know.
started coaching,
I
right?
know.
So
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. So yeah, it was good times. It's been fun to see us both where our lives have
Yes.
taken us.
Yes.
It's been good.
Up
All
and at
right.
'em.
Up and at 'em. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Come back next week for something very special that I'm going to keep for next week.
Thank
All
you,
right.
everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to the Solo Grind. I hope this episode brought you some inspiration and encouragement. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast, and feel free to share. For more tips and insights, visit caffeinecreative.io to check out my blog or explore the Creative Vault, my free course library. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. I'd love to hear how this episode has helped you.